1. The income tax. You work, you get paid, they take a piece, right off the top. 2. The payroll tax, Social Security, Medicare, FICA. Another piece, for later, they say. 3. The sales tax. You go to the store, you buy something, you gotta pay a sales tax. 4. The capital gains taxes. You buy a stock, you sell it for a profit, that is a capital gains tax you have to pay. 5. Property taxes. You buy a house. Well, every year you have to pay property taxes on that house. 6. An estate tax. This is more reserved for the ultra-wealthy. If you die with a lot of assets and you pass these assets on, the government is going to tax you. 7. The tariff tax. This is what we've been talking about today. This tariff tax is if something is being imported from a foreign country. 8. Corporate taxes. So, a corporation, if they make a profit, they have to pay a tax on that profit before the owners get a penny. That's why it's called a double taxation. But you have the corporate tax, then you have your state and local taxes. Certain states charge much higher. And then I lumped everything else into number 10, which is other, which could be really any other tax, your toll taxes, cigarette taxes, lottery taxes. That's how the United States government is generating this $5 trillion. And this I know goes beyond some of the government taxes because you also have state, but the government is generating $5 trillion by taxing you in many different ways. But the problem is then that the United States government is going out and spending $7 trillion. That's the estimated budget for the United States government in 2025, which means there is a $2 trillion deficit. So going back to the original idea of using tariff revenue to replace the IRS, what we can see now based off of almost a year's worth of data is that tariff data is not enough to replace the total tax revenue from the IRS, and it's definitely not enough to replace the expenditure for the United States government.
Now, this helps us lean into what's happening with the tax plan right now and how it can impact how much money you're paying in taxes. This is where, to reduce this deficit, the United States government can do two things. They can spend less money, which means reduce their spending, or they can work to earn more money, meaning generating more taxes. And what we're seeing happen today is that the United States government is working to spend less money in certain areas. For example, I've already talked about how the United States government is cutting back on expenses at the IRS by laying off workers.
For more success content, earning opportunities, and endless giveaways, be sure to visit wealthhealthself.com.